Thank you very much for watching. The wonderful Linda Scott is here. Of course, she's part of the City of Sydney Council, but she is, pulling up stumps. Just a few weeks to go now, but still represents local government at National Cabinet, and none other than the wonderful James Ashby, who wants to get into that Queensland Parliament via the seat of Keppel. Of course, One Nation, vote now, vote early for him to get that spot. So let's talk about a couple of things, including a former Supreme Court judge has said that housing should be a human right in Australia. Now, James, there isn't a person when you see a collection of people that are sleeping rough that doesn't go, well, come on, surely we can do better. We're really rich. Why can't there be, a night in a hotel, etc., etc. But obviously, we also have the orthodoxy who believes that we should be having, 1 million people joining us in this country every couple of years. So how would that work if it was to be considered a right when obviously we don't have the supply for the existing population, let alone future populations?
Well, some of these judges are actually making people homeless, particularly in the family law courts. So I hope that he actually starts having a conversation with his colleagues at a higher level, because quite often it's the blokes that are left homeless when those family law matters reach the court and the bloke's turfed out and he's got nowhere to go. So it is somewhat a right for people to have a house, or more or less a roof over their heads. But we're talking about, I read his article and I thought to myself, you're talking about an era where you could build a house for 50 grand.
Yeah.
I know Mum and Dad built their place in the 80s. Land was 15,000, the house was 35,000, and that was a brick home back in Landsborough when we were kids. You can't do that today. And the average house, I was only in the main street of Yeppoon this weekend and just sort of scouting around at property prices, and a new house and land package in a back block here on the coast is going to set you back no less than $750,000.
Blimey.
So it's all well and good, but look, if people want a house, if people want a roof over their heads, really you've got to start planning for this at a very young age. Forget these $20, $30, $40 and $50,000 holidays overseas every year as a 20-year-old. You've got to start knuckling down and put that money away for your future, because there's nothing worse than being an older 30s, 40s family with 3 kids in tow and having to move every 6 to 12 months because the rent went up and you've had to move somewhere else. If you want housing affordability, you've got to try and get into the market earlier, and that means being disciplined with your money. Don't just think that you can piss away your money at nightclubs and bars of a weekend and lattes every morning on the way to work. You've got to start saving, and parents really need to get that through the kids' heads at this early age.
See, I think there's a lot of fairness in what James is saying, Linda. Obviously, when it comes to the people that are sleeping rough right now, right? Like literally in New South Wales, there is a little courtyard that's underneath the Premier's office. And for as long as any of us have been talking about politics, someone sleeps rough underneath the Premier's office every night, right? There's a lot of issues, from veterans, all the rest of it, right? Homeless services desperately need to be increased, so we all can understand what some of the solutions are there. But isn't also a fundamental issue for Australians right now is that I think that this extends to education, and certainly when it comes to home ownership, is that we're actually not willing to move around. Like other parts of the world, you may be born in a certain city, but you go to university somewhere else, or you might get your first job somewhere else. Australia seems to have this very sort of clustered idea that if I'm born in Melbourne, I get to stay in Melbourne. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't want to stay in Melbourne, but if you can only afford to go to Wodonga, then go to Wodonga.
Look, when I was first elected to the City of Sydney now 12 years ago, it was the case that many regional mayors said for them that people sleeping rough in their towns was just not an issue. It was really a Sydney problem. And you're right, Paul, it is the case that we've got so many people each night, tragically, in the City of Sydney still sleeping rough. But over the last few years, it is the case that regional mayors have started telling me that they have people sleeping in their towns rough for the first time in living memory. But here's what I won't cop. I won't cop James Ashby and I won't cop Peter Dutton and the Conservatives blaming individuals, and particularly blaming young people, for the fact that these are economic conditions that are driving the housing affordability crisis. That is just rubbish, and we have to call that out. This is not lazy young people.
No, that's Labor's immigration policy, which is also driving up prices in houses. And Linda, you've got to make it very clear to your colleagues, stop letting hundreds of thousands in a year.
Want to get in the way of normal working people's wages growing, and that's why young people find it harder to afford a home. So I will not cut from James Ashby.
We're not going to have minimum wage rise increases, which are going to be able to get you to $1 million for a deposit for a two-bedroom unit in Sydney.
Lazy or frivolous. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. Normal Australians
Don't try and
should
twist
be able
this,
to
Linda. You're
afford
twisting
houses.
it.
But
this is very good of Labor. They like to twist.
Yeah, they do. But to your point, James, about again, look, this is what about this issue, right? Everyone interprets things to be very personal, right? Now, obviously, there are going to be circumstances of the people that have been working their backside off, that aren't earning enough money, that are pulling their head in as tight as they possibly can, who aren't able to get anywhere near it, right? However, there are other examples of people who may well haven't been pulling their head in as tight as they possibly could, but they're still complaining. And there could be some other examples of people who may even have the cash, but they don't have the houses. And I've got to say, James, it reminds me a little bit of the general sort of parenting or education debate, because all of us have slept somewhere or lived somewhere or paid the rent somewhere. We all think we know how to solve this.
Yeah, but the safety net is failing, Linda. It's your people within Labor that just continue to allow, if it's not 750,000 people into the country in 1 year, it's another 500,000. And this is part of the problem. The safety net for the people that are already here has disappeared. I spoke to a bloke who's living it rough out of a camper van of his. He's been on the streets, basically moved from shire to shire to shire, can't sleep anywhere safely around here in Livingston, so he goes and finds some back block area to sleep. And the problem is, he's a bloke who's worked his entire life. He's fallen through the cracks through hard times due to medical reasons. And now he's busted ass sitting in a bugged out little bloody camper van. He says it himself. And he can't do anything about it. No one within the government's prepared to help because they're too worried about the 40-odd thousand refugees that have come in via aircraft under this Labor government federally that are getting looked after by your people over this bloke.
Standing in the way of the Albanese Labor government's record investment in public housing.
Own it, Linda.
We've got a Prime Minister who grew up in public housing, who believes in it, who wants to fund it, and your party and the Conservatives stand in the way of it in the Senate. We want to build more housing for people like this bloke.
You think you can build houses for $80,000? It's impossible, lady.
It's a disgrace.
Get it through this thing here. Your plan has failed.
All right. Let us talk about parliamentary salaries. I noticed, interestingly, today, we know that the politicians have got plenty of pay rises. Well, now there's one coming for the staffers of federal politicians. I noticed, James, that you and the boss, Pauline Hanson, were out there saying, OK, enough. Explain to us, maybe without, I'm not asking you to tell me exactly to the dollar what you earn, but why is about 10, 11% increase too much?
Well, Paul, we're some of the best paid people in this country as staffers of political offices or government departments. And it goes without saying that an 11.2% increase over the next couple of years is just outrageous. We hear of other organisations, minimum wage, are completely different. They get a 3.75% increase. Now, that's fair enough. And a lot of people would say that is not enough. But then at the same time too, you know, if you go putting it up too far, businesses have to cope with it. But taxpayers at the end of the day are on the hook for this. 11.2%. Albanese was whinging that wages within the parliament were too high, that he couldn't afford to give crossbenchers extra staff. And here he is just going and giving an 11.2% increase. We get some of the best conditions. We get travel allowance, which is just outrageous. I try and do as little travel as I can today because at the end of the day, I don't want it put back on the taxpayer. Well, but, you know, this is a government just spend and buy more of those votes from the public service.
Well, but also don't forget as well that this is all about making sure, and we're not going to stand in the way of it and all the rest of it because, of course, they may go into minority government, most likely according to the numbers. Therefore, you want to have the negotiation with the crossbench. You don't want to make them annoyed about how much their staff get paid or how many there are. So, Linda, things have got better for the Democrats since last we spoke, with Kamala Harris now confirmed as their candidate, literally. That happened via a Zoom chat earlier today. The numbers are starting to level up, and even she's starting to go ahead of Donald Trump. the political pessimist in you thinks, oh, something's about to happen next week? Or do you feel like, well, once you get in front, the nature of American politics is that you're probably not going to come back? As somebody who wants a Harris victory, what are you feeling right now as times are the best they've been for the Dems all cycle?
Look, I do want to say that I'm full of hope, and I think that Kamala Harris is an incredible candidate. She will revitalise the Democrats' campaign, and she will bring new people to the Democrats, which is what they need. But I still do think that this is Trump's election to lose, right? He's been out the front for a long time. He's got this incredible kind of tech bros group behind him that are just channeling him big money behind a small number of very wealthy people. That's very hard to overcome when you're a grassroots party like the Democrats. So it's going to be very interesting.
Grassroots! They just punted the president!
Well, but they rely on $5 donations from working people, not billions from tech bros.
Yeah, all right. All right. James, I think what happens now too is that once the media sort of completely moves into the Democrat is awesome, Republican is evil, that if you see undecided in a poll, that's a quiet Trump supporter. That may have been a little bit different at previous times, certainly when it was out in front. How do you read this thing? Because it feels like we are at tipping point, or maybe it was a couple of days ago, where Harris now goes in front.
Linda would sell HIV as a positive if it was a candidate for this debate, by the sounds of it. Terrible candidate,
James.
Kamala Harris. Just shocking.
Really appalling.
Look, I don't see this changing. Trump, I still believe, is still the best presidential candidate in this race. And obviously, we've got only, 12 weeks to find out whether he returns to the Oval Office.
James, thousands of my constituents have passed away from HIV. That's one of the most appalling things I've ever heard.
Plenty within my community, I know too, Linda. But you would sell it as something as a blessing.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take a break. We'll see what happens on the other side, whether we continue in the conversation or our plan is to have a chat in Paris. We will do so in a moment's time here on Paul Murray.
11 essential vitamins and minerals, low GI, protein, high in fiber. It's amazing what they squeeze into an up and go.
We squeeze more good stuff in, so you can get more out. Also available in no added sugar.
Do you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Metamucil's daily 4-in-1 fibre helps trap and remove waste. This daily cleanser supports gut health, regularity, and traps cholesterol and sugars. Try Metamucil.
Maria and Julio thought their life would never slow down. Then, one day, it finally did. You were made to find inner peace. We were made to track flight prices to paradise.
I'm making your famous roast again, love.
Looked a lot easier when you did it.
I guess the kids will tell me if I finally got it right. You always kept us together. I'll make sure you still do.
This is Rob. He's a dentist. He uses Oral-B gum and enamel. It neutralises bacteria to revitalise your gums in 2 weeks and strengthens your enamel. For strong teeth and revitalised gums. Gums, Rob, not guns. Oral-B.
Discovery. A calling. Memories. Life is full of precious gifts. Now yours can be one too. A gift in your will to UNICEF Australia helps care for children around the world for generations to come. Your legacy can leave a lasting impact. Give every child a chance at a brighter future by leaving a gift in your will to UNICEF Australia. Search unicef.org.au/wills.
Blocked nose? Get Vicks Inhaler for fast relief.
My fried rice hack? Cookies! And sesame oil.
Fresh tomatoes.
I love all of it. My tip? Do it your way.
Meet the Hansons. We challenge them to take new Vanish Gold Pro on a trip in search of the world's toughest stains. The catch? They only get one shirt each.
What have you done? There's no way this will come out in the cold wash.
Even in cold and short cycles, just one scoop of Vanish in every wash is safe on clothes, while lifting the toughest of stains.
Wow, that only took 30 minutes.
Trust Vanish, forget stains.
Juggling life admin while trying to find inspiring healthy meals doesn't have to be hard. Marley Spoon makes it easy with all the work done for you. Delicious, nutritious meals using seasonally fresh produce, ready in just 6 simple steps. Eating better every day of the week is easy with Marley Spoon. Use code TV235 to get up to $235 off your first 5 boxes at marleyspoon.com.au.
All right, we are planning to talk to Hannah Hollis next couple of minutes from Paris, if we can get the tin cans to work. In the meantime, planning to talk about with Linda Scott and with James Ashby. Before we get to your bold predictions for the week ahead, which, remember, locked into law. James, I want to ask you about Tony Burke, because there was some little profile piece in the Fin Review suggesting, his next job's going to be the Prime Ministership, and then we've had these other people suggesting, Chalmers, the profile piece. Now, I thought that Albo was solid. I thought he was so locked in, so okay, going to win the next 15 elections in a row. Why are we getting the jockeying now for a bloke who allegedly is ahead in the polls despite the fact that his disapproval rating is higher than his approval rating?
Well, it just goes to show that the Labor Party are not united. If this is what's happening in the background, it's proof that, there's internal blows happening there. And of course, they must be very concerned that they're not a shoo-in for a second term of Parliament. Look, Burke's highly effective. You have to admit it. I don't like his politics, but he's very good on the floor, good operator, and anyone has to be better than Giles. But let's not forget, Burke's failed in this position before. He's failed in every other ministerial position. He just spins it better, and he's a better salesperson, particularly on the floor of Parliament and especially in the media. So don't be surprised if he is jockeying for that position. There's no certainty that Labor will get a second term. They might scrape in with a crossbench in the lower house and in the Senate, but there's no guarantee. So that is why there's unrest behind the scenes within Labor.
Yeah, Linda, do you get this sense of it? Or, I mean, again, it's just a little profile piece and who cares?
Oh, James is right to acknowledge that Labor's government is full of talent. Like, you've got 3 new people into the cabinet: Pat Conroy, Jenny McAllister, Malandira McCarthy, absolutely incredible talent. Tim Ayres, Patrick Gorman, Ged Carney, given promotions, extraordinary. And then just even on the backbench, Jerome Laxale, Tracy Roberts, I could go on. Like, the government's full of talent, incredible people. It's great to see. They're a really, really great government.
Now, because we were trying to juggle some of the technical stuff, I didn't hear every single word, but obviously been a bit of reaction off the air already to the conversation before, James, in and around the HIV comment. Do you stand by it? Do you want to step back from it, say sorry? If not, I just want to give you the opportunity to respond to it. Again, the pushback's pretty hard here.
I get it, Paul. We all get a bit passionate here, and I suppose it was probably a little too harsh. But at the end of the day, look, I get frustrated with the way in which Labor sell things as though they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, look, it probably was a step too far, but at the end of the day, I don't take away from the fact that Labor keep selling lemons, and they'll find the next best lemon to try and flog as though it's, this great thing for Australia. So, look, probably a step too far.
That's all right. I just want to give you the chance to say it. Appreciate you saying so. Linda, thank you very much. We'll talk again very soon. And, of course, the great James Ashby.